Well, welcome. It is July 18th. I had to look on my calendar. This is what I believe is the 9th episode of Design Review, the podcast for engineering your life. And I am so delighted to have Chelsea Linge here as a guest. I met Chelsea online as one of the coaching crew on LinkedIn, and I've just been really impressed and delighted by what she has to say. Also to the point where I've joined the Building the Bridge community, which has really been a very supportive environment. And I've been looking forward to this for a while. So welcome, Chelsea.
Yay. Thank you so much, Robert. It's such a delight to be here with you. And ever since we have first met, I just felt like we have been birds of a feather. And so I'm so excited to be here with you as you are almost about to break into double digits on your podcast. And might I just say, having just followed your podcasting journey from the beginning, podcasting is very clearly an activity that suits you very well. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, absolutely wonderful. And as things go with the rest, I know you know the deal, but I just remind this for myself as much as anything else. This is a conversation. I find that when I've done podcasts where I'm trying to speak to the listeners, I just lose the connection. So whatever we talk about is great. I suspect that we will be talking about a project because that's how the format starts. But wherever our discussion goes is absolutely perfect. And so why don't you introduce you? Because chances are pretty good people are going to know a little bit about me, but give us the elevator pitch about Chelsea.
Oh boy, the elevator pitch. Well, I'm I'm the co-founder of a company called Becoming the Bridge. We're in the personal development, transformational space. I'm based out of the Pacific Northwest. Have a husband, a little kitty at home, and yeah, I suppose the easiest place to start would be I didn't ever intend to be in this work. It was not on my radar whatsoever. And it was a pretty interesting journey that took me here. I'm very, very blessed and grateful to be in a situation today where my work in the world feels very aligned with who I am as a human, feels very aligned with my soul, and allows me to have beautiful people like you in my life, and to be in community, and be walking a path towards a brighter future for ourselves, for our communities, for our planet, and doing it in good company.
I love that. And whether or not you saw yourself doing this work, you're so natural at it. And this is easy. It's always been easy for me to speak with you and share with you. And I'm a pretty open human. You know that, you've witnessed that. But it's always been received. I find myself not worrying about how you will take something, and that's a good sign for me feeling safe. And so, but that you do that seems to come very naturally or very deep within, and very likely is a product of whatever in life you've been through that got you here. So it seems to me you're doing a calling that's working. So delighted.
Well, that is such a compliment. All I want is for people to be able to be themselves around me. I feel like that is the greatest gift someone could give someone, right? Is to allow ourselves to be seen and heard exactly as we are, without needing to be some polished version of ourselves. And I think the short answer to how that may have come to be in my life is I walked a path that was Jack, who my business partner, we joke that there are several ways that the universe or God, whatever word you want to use that feels comfortable for you here, can speak to you. And sometimes it's like a knock at the door. And if you're not answering, you're not paying attention, it's like a tap on the shoulder. And if you're still not listening, you get the 2x4 upside the head. Boom!
Oh yeah.
And I'm a 2x4 person. I had my own 2x4 moment. I mean, granted, there were multiple flavors of 2x4, but really one that I was like, okay, I'm ready to listen. Let's see, I must have just been out turning 30. And I'm so grateful for that moment. It was actually more of a season than a moment, if
Mm.
I'm being accurate.
Uh-huh.
Because as painful as it was, and it I was finally ready to change. And so I would never in a million years take away that moment. And since I know I've just viscerally experienced like my own shadow so right so up close and personally, um it's just so it's so much easier to just give so much love and grace and acceptance for everyone else because I everyone is doing their best at any given moment, even if the behaviors are ones that maybe I wouldn't choose, you wouldn't choose, maybe don't align with where we want to go long term. We're just doing our best. And I think where we get confused is we think that doing our best equates to the same thing as being the best. And those aren't the same things at all.
I love that distinction and the grace, because there's a lot of what my minister would call unskilled behavior,
I love that.
which I love the gentle but clarity of that phrase. And yeah, I mean, I do not prefer the 2x4 method. I actually really I fear it. I avoid it, and yet I've had a few of them. I've had. I mean, I was 22 and fired from my first job, and that woke up something.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, it's the first time in my life I said I think I have an addictive personality.
Mm.
Just took 35 more years before the ultimate 2x4, which in my case came, in the form of a divorce. And my third, because we don't always learn the first time, and that was one of the most painful times of my life. I really, I've mentioned that I thought that maybe living wasn't my best option back then. I didn't have a plan. I didn't get that far, but just like, if I could have like snapped my fingers and exited the plane, not literally, I might have, but everything that's going on in my life has been made possible by that moment and what I've learned about myself. And then through that, about life and the universe and humans. And I was an engineer. I was like a technical only guy. And now I'm about people. I like really seriously care about you. You probably could tell, that I like, and that's my thing. Um, that all got opened up by me going through that really painful, messy, season. It was years. Um, so, I hear you. I hear you, and I appreciate it takes a lot to get to the level of wisdom I perceive from you. It's rare, and it's even more rare for somebody, forgive me for ageism, that's as young as you are. And so when I run across these enlightened beings, I appreciate it, and it's a special energy that comes from that. And so yay. um, well, thanks for the background. So as is true to the format, we'll see how well we adhere to that. I do have ADHD, so God knows where this is going to end up. But we tend to talk about a project, We've talked about the Building the Bridge project, which I think would be amazing. Actually, I'd love to have more people learn about that anyway. And in that, is that what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Um,
So it starts off with the why. So before we delve into the actual solution, we need to understand what the problem was that this is a solution for. So why don't you set us up with that?
Perfect. How very engineer-like of you. Also, two things before we dive into the why. I just want to say I'm so thankful that you're still here and that you used that 2x4 to put you down a new path. And I also just want to make one note to not give me too much credit. I have a lot to figure out still. Well, I don't have it any other way.
Well, if someone cannot say that, they're not going to learn and grow very much.
Yeah, that's true.
So I appreciate the honesty and the humility and the self-awareness that goes with that. So pitch to you.
Yeah. So why? Okay. I'm going to take your question of why, and I'm going to kind of turn the snow globe a little bit and look at it a little bit of a different way and just explain how it all came to be. Because the idea behind becoming the bridge did not come from my brain. So a little bit of backstory and context here. I had a 10-year sales career, which was perfect for the time because I had never experienced financial security until that. And so that was beautiful for that season. And also, I reached a point where I didn't know I was getting out of bed in the morning. And so after a big series of events and what I would call a spiritual awakening, I decided to go out on my own. And this was in fall of 2021. And at that point in my life, the only thing that I had ever felt burning passion for was fitness. It had been like the one tool that I had in my toolkit throughout, a series of my 20s, which were not very healthy on a whole, that had consistently helped me feel better, feel more confident, and that I just loved and looked forward to. So it was a big deal for me to go out on my own, give up financial security after, not being raised with it, and make my own way in the world. And Robert, within 3 months, I knew in my gut it wasn't right for me. And that was such
3 months.
I knew it. I can look back and I can name it then.
That's efficient.
But I was unwilling to accept that.
Oh, all right. That's a human thing to do. All right.
I was like, well, that can't possibly be right. It was very confusing and disorienting because it's like, well, this is the only thing I've ever cared about. And if it's not this, what the heck is it? Oh my gosh. So for over 2 years, then I was like trying to square peg round hole. Like maybe if I change my offering, trying all these different things.
That sounds kind of exhausting and painful.
It was exhausting and painful. And it was one of those painful things where, if we think of like full alignment, maybe let's just use like a 0 to 100 scale. I had gone from sales, which I would say was probably like a 20% alignment.
All right.
To maybe like a 60% alignment.
Okay.
And so it was still a step in the right direction. And I do believe that there are some people, like people are built differently. Some people can say, this is the work that I do to earn a living. And then these are the things that I do for fun. Yeah. And these are the things that I bring for me fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And have some separation. And I'm not built that way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So 60% alignment, like internally, it was creating a lot of friction, causing a lot of self-induced suffering. Either way, so at the beginning of this I've been on a spiritual journey for close to 5 years now, but at the beginning of 2024, it started to maybe take more of a front seat would be the best way to describe it.
Sure.
Read a series of books, autobiography of a yogi, and then Michael Singer's work has been really instrumental in my path. And I read The Surrender Experiment and realized that is not how I've lived my life at all. And so, for anyone who's not familiar with the idea of the Surrender Experiment, the idea is that we essentially stop fighting the flow of life and allow whatever is happening in front of us to happen, and find acceptance for it. And that doesn't mean in like a passive lay back and do nothing sort of way, but it kind of breaks us out of like the Western mind of like needing to figure it all out and have a 10-year plan that you're striving towards. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Uh-huh.
So, the way I operate is I usually I'm working with a word for a theme, or as a theme or a season. I don't choose them. They just kind of come to me. And so I was working with this idea of surrender. And I had this moment where I was like, the only way I'm going to be able to figure out what the path is for me is if I stop walking the path that I know and have known for a couple of years isn't for me. And so in June of 2024, I shut down my health coaching business, which I had amazing clients, and I had taken me a couple of years to build it up, and people were giving me praise for and saying, oh, this seems like it's such a good thing for you. And so, I had all this like external, this is going well, but internally it wasn't. And so I said, and I just announced it publicly. I told all my clients, like, I don't know what's next. I have literally no clue, but I know that this isn't it for me. And so like, I'm going to see our work through together and make sure you're so well supported. I'm also not going to be doing this anymore. And I got, people were very confused, rightfully so. And I also want to like point out the privilege of being able to make a choice like that and acknowledge that. And then for about 6 months, I sat on my meditation cushion and I explored things that had been interesting to me that I had never, had time or resources for before. And my connection to God or the divine spirit universe started to get more clear. There was actually space for it.
Yeah.
And that 6 or so months was a really interesting time period, because depending on the day, I was either surrendering and floating down the stream, or I was fighting it and being like, oh, I have to figure this out.
Oh, you were being a human being.
Yeah. And in hindsight, I can say like, oh, it was all working out perfectly, but at that point I just truly didn't know where life was taking me, if there was anything for me. And like, that's the tricky part, is not knowing if there is something for you. I didn't have any clue. And I think I learned more patience in that season than I had ever learned in my entire life before.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, I had been at a friend's wedding, and we had stayed in a little boutique Airbnb that was designed for sleep. And when I tell you, Robert, I got the best night's sleep of my entire life. I woke up the next morning, and often ideas come to me kind of like in a flash. And this one wasn't in a flash. It was like in my peripheral vision. I was like, there's something there, but I can't really see it. Huh. And like, as the day went on, I was like, oh, I see what it is. And the idea at that point was to bring together small groups of people to do inner work together. The same stuff that I had been doing in my own life for, half a decade, that I'd basically been exploring on my own because I didn't have a lot of community around it. And my little monkey mind was like, Chelsea, you're not prepared to do this. This is not right. This is way too scary. And then you're going to bring people together. Oh my goodness. But the idea just kept growing and growing. And then a series of synchronicities. Finally, I was like, I'm just going to explore it. I'm going to be open to exploring it.
Yeah.
And a series of synchronicities unfolded that I couldn't have explained. I'll share one of them. My business partner, Jack, who you know, we'd known each other from LinkedIn and had been friends for most of that year at that point. And we had like a monthly call where we would just catch up. And so he was the first person outside of my husband that I shared the idea with. And when I shared it with him just to see what he thought of it, he completely lit up and was like, oh my gosh, Chelsea, if you want any support in that, even if it's just like being a fly on the wall and providing good vibes for your first group, like let me know. And so I got off the phone with him and I was like, well, there's something there again that I can't see and I can't figure out what it is. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh, I don't want to do this by myself. I want to do this with someone else. So I called him back and I was like, when you say be involved, how involved do you mean? And he was like, Chelsea, I can fly up this weekend and we can figure out if we might be a good pair to do this. And I was in like such a, here's a stranger. I've never met him in person. I was just like in this space of saying, like surrendering and saying yes. And I was like, come on up, you can stay with us. And I was like, I'm pretty intuition driven.
Yeah.
My intuition doesn't always speak the moment I want to know the answer. So I said, I don't want to make any decisions while you're here.
Yeah.
But I would love to explore it. So he came into town and within 48 hours, it was just such a full body yes. And we had I had the nugget of the idea and then Jack had the vision for how to take it like in the 10-year realm. And from there, over the next, I think it was 5 weeks, we built our program, brought people into it and launched it. And the entire time it was supported in a way that I couldn't have anticipated. For example, someone joined our first cohort because they had a dream that they should join the cohort and they would have a life-changing experience. Like you can't, where's that in the sales manuscripts, So the why behind it was really, it was kind of like the choiceless choice in a sense. Granted, I could have said no. I absolutely could have said no. But the idea came from the void. And that seems to be where anytime I'm sourcing things that aren't from my mind, my life seems to unfold in a way that is more beautiful than I could have anticipated. And what I recognized, and I'm going to start to wrap it up here, so thank you for bearing with me.
I'm digging this.
What I recognized is the way, so, we've kind of evolved in the different things we've offered since then, but what we first offered were the small group cohorts, and what we saw were people were having bigger breakthroughs in 8 weeks than I was getting in like 2 years of one-on-one coaching. And what I realized is that oftentimes people who are doing inner work, they're doing it, with their therapist, sitting on a couch, and trying to then go out and integrate this into their lives, and to do it with others who are walking the same path. It was like rocket fuel. Like people were able to take like 10 steps instead of one in shorter amounts of time. So that's how we ended up here. And from there, it's been programs, it's our community, it's now been in-person retreats. And every step of the way, it's been like, when you're driving the car and it's night and it's like, you're going 50 miles an hour, but you can't see past the end of your headlights, but you're like, I trust them to get there safely. That's kind of how the whole business has felt, where like we have like an idea of where it's going, but then we just are responding to what our community is telling us and the way things are unfolding naturally. So
I love the listening. And I want to comment because, well, one, I don't bring somebody into this podcast unless I already have a really good feel for them and an alignment and a like, whoa, there's like something going on here. But I know more. I've been watching and interacting with this story for quite a while now, because I remember when you were considering building that, I met with you and Jack.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, whatever you're up to, it's awesome. I love it. Let's chat. And yeah, I didn't participate in that cohort, but yeah, I did get to go on the retreat, which is,
So special.
But I love the intuitive drive, the trust, the surrender of control, that is an integral part to this. I do not think you would be having the success you have if you had a documented 5-year plan that you followed. I think it might fail, actually, if you followed the traditional business approach to something so deeply spiritual and deeply human. And so I think that openness and that vulnerability and that risk, that's, I guess, what vulnerability is, right? There's risk. So is an inherent part of it. So I love watching that. And I'm not super surprised that miracles happen in community, in part because of the communities I'm in. Because I've done 12-step recovery community. I've done spiritual community of several kinds, including teen advising, and freaking miracles happen that would not be possible one-on-one. So like, oh yeah, I hear you. It's not a big surprise to me. So I'm also coming at this from, yeah, I've got a bunch of life experience that says exactly what you're saying, which is another reason why I'm such a proponent for it. And you've happened upon and opened yourself up to what in Jungian terms we would call the collective unconscious, to things I also have very different life experience, but that is very, very similar experience to. And that's one of the reasons I'm such a fan. I love the energy, I love creating, but it's also like I see a lot, and it's very resonant with my experience and my revelations and what I've experienced through being vulnerable in creating my business. Which, holy crap, that's a similar kind of a journey, and so I love that, and being a little bit conscious at times. So that's kind of the why part. And we've touched a little bit on what you've been doing with it. The question I don't get to ask too many people is what's gone well and what hasn't.
Ooh, that's a good one. Also, I just want to first reflect on your use of the word miracles. I've been using that word recently too. That used to be a word that had such a so many tangly threads. I'm curious, Robert, what your definition of a miracle is. Like when we're talking miracles, what are you talking about?
That's a really good question, because I used to literally scoff at language like that.
Me too.
It wasn't that long ago. I would have made fun of people.
Oh, and the word blessings? No.
Oh yeah, I would have rolled my eyes. And
yeah.
That was if science can't point to it and it's not documented and validated, then I'm like, yeah, no. The ironic thing is the things that I'm dealing with from a spiritual standpoint are now being validated through it, just much, much more sophisticated science. Quantum physics made a lot of things more explainable. So miracles, to some extent, they're unexplainable. To some extent, the word synchronicity kind of gels in that space. Powerful, life affirming. This is like coming to me like real time. Powerful, life affirming results that inherently involve energy and spiritual connection and may not be Newtonian physics explained. How's that?
Yes, I love it. Life affirming. Beautiful. Thank you for that. I think we're using the same language here then. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it ain't the first time, sister.
Uh, okay, so what has gone well and what hasn't gone well? Well, and you and I were talking earlier about, perception, right? So things that have not gone well, if that is my perception of maybe life's way of asking me to grow that I haven't been ready for. So I'll start with that.
Okay.
What has gone well? I'll start there, and that is a huge list. But I think that it has been um, a bit of a layer cake. To be for myself personally to be doing aligned work is I am so beyond grateful. If this went away tomorrow and it was no longer, I would still be so thankful that I had the opportunity to touch fulfillment and purpose and service like this in my lifetime. Um, it's brought amazing, beautiful humans into my life, like you. Yay. Um, and there's just to see people experience miracles. If we're using language that maybe is less crunchy for some folks, to see people experience breakthroughs on things that have been hangups for them their whole lives and to find freedom is the best part of being a human, really. I think we're all here to find more freedom, to clear all the blockers that are keeping us from freedom. And freedom is pretty synonymous with love and truth in my eyes. And when I think of, when I consider our planet and where we're at with humanity,
Yep.
um, I think what's going to take is a lot more humans coming home to their hearts and coming home to freedom and love. And so it feels like in a world that can often feel hopeless if we pay attention to all the news and everything going on. And I don't mean that in a stick your head in the sand sort of way. I just mean that there's a lot happening.
There is.
It feels like there's a contingency of us. Well, actually, not even feels like there is a contingency of us who have decided to step up and build the new way, the way that can thread the needle into a brighter future that we're, well, that we can feel proud of. And so, what's gone well is those things. It's a contribution to humanity and the collective, and that that is the greatest gift of all. And I don't feel like any of that is happening because of Chelsea or because of Jack. I feel like it's just
Through you.
through us. Yeah, this is what we
Yeah,
came here to do. And
their hollow bone.
the hollow bone, yeah.
You go ahead and say the whole thing just so that people get.
Yeah. My prayer in any talk, workshop, program, retreat, anything I facilitate is to be a hollow bone, which to me means remove my own personality and ego and allow what spirit wants to serve to come through me. That was my prayer before coming on this podcast today. And
That's beautiful.
that's the only way that the miracles do occur. Anytime Chelsea is in the room, she's making things harder.
Well, and I, again, the number of things that resonate so deeply and powerfully, that's one of them. And I hadn't, heard of hollow bone before you said it, but at my best, I'm a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get myself out of the way, which doesn't mean erasing it, it just means like not impeding it or distorting it.
Yeah.
Then the message of the universe, spirit, nature, whatever, use your words, coming through me, one is really powerful and much more effective than if I was messing with it and trying to make it happen, efforting my way through it. Also, one of the real blessings for that for me is that I don't get all hung up in what people think about it when I'm fully in that space. It can be amazingly powerful, like your work is, like that the building bridge is. Um, and then it's not about me. I'm not like saying, hey, look what I did. And if people don't like it or whatever, it's also not like crushing me. I can be fully 100% cheerleading the thing without it becoming narcissistic.
Yeah.
And for me, that's part of what freedom is for me. One of the things that they say in 12-step work and is the freedom from the bondage of self.
Mm.
The 7th-step prayer, I believe. And my fear of what people think of me caused me to do a lot of things which did excel, and caused me to do a lot of things that were really harmful, at the very least to me.
Yeah.
And when I can be free of that, then, well, miracles happen. And so I love that you're being fueled by that. And I absolutely see it. Yeah, I don't take a lot of extra convincing here, because like sometimes I'm like pointing it out before you do. And I love that that's happening. So you don't have to dwell on the things that didn't go the way that you wanted, but is there anything that you would do differently if you had to do it again?
Well, I was going to say, I don't want to skip the second part of the question, because I feel like, you know, in the interest of not just being like, oh, everything's amazing all the time. So I'll put the asterisk again that not well is, maybe just my own ability to accept the experience that I'm having, right? But
Yeah.
what I will say is that stepping into this role has given me the opportunity to level up in a way that is faster than I would have ever done it on my own. And that sounds nice to say it here on a podcast. And the reality of walking around in my life is that oftentimes, well, not even oftentimes, what can happen is because I'm growing so much, there's also contractions. And what I mean by that is, so like the waves of the ocean, they go out, and then they come back, and that's how nature exists. Things grow, then they die. And I think what often gets lost in the sauce in the personal development space is like always growing, always expanding all the time. And no. So there are multiple layers to this. The first is my own personal growth. Like, and I'll give you an example of this. When I was first running the cohorts, I was new to it, and they were so powerful, and there was so much energy in the room, and I was holding it, but it was the first time I'd been holding something like that. And I would find myself those at the beginning, but while I was learning to hold that much energy, on my couch eating toast at 2 p.m. afterwards, because I just kind of needed to shut down.
Yeah.
It was just like I couldn't. My system was overloaded, and it needed like much more rest and repair.
Yes.
And it was happening in ways that, like, the toast became a joke in my house. Like, oh, I'm eating toast again, because it was just like that's to manage. And so I wouldn't say that's like wasn't going well, but it's just like some of like the parts that happen behind the scenes that aren't necessarily just like so fun in the moment. The second piece is, well, I've always thought that building a business is a spiritual path, because first of all, it's a very creative act, because there is nothing, and then you are building something from nothing, right? So it's an act of creation in and of itself. It will bubble every single self-limiting belief in the world to the surface.
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness. And they sometimes come all at once, right when you're in the middle of trying to do the thing you set out to do.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So, there's just been so much of that, like, in our community, one of our pillars is like like money mindset, like having a conscious wealth creation mindset, building a healthy relationship with money. That's been, something that I've also been continuing to work on in my own life, is like, how do I charge an amount that allows me to feel spaciousness that I can actually bring my gifts through without
Oh,
worrying about, the finances behind the scenes. That's
yeah.
something that's been on the front. And I wouldn't, so once again, I wouldn't say it's not going well, but it is something that is like crunchy and like people don't super talk about, but it's very much alive.
Oh, yeah. And I'm facing that now. Because I've been like building foundation of my business for a year, and I'm also going through a bunch of really deep training, which is helping me. But like actually charging people what I ought to is confronting as hell. Um, and I'm like, well, and this is how it goes when you're up to something. You're going to end up encountering resistance, that your ego is gonna like show up, and it's a chance to integrate, or as we would say, individuate. It's a chance to heal, and you're courageously, there is no courage without fear. You are courageously leaning into activities that are stimulating, your healing,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or at least initiating it in that regard. So yeah, the self care is critical. My I study with a minister. She's my spiritual business guide and my personal spiritual practitioner as well. I end up seeing her multiple times a week. And one of her expressions for ministry, which is how I would describe my kind of work, and actually to some extent yours as well, that in ministry, you need to spend at least as much time in self-care as you do with clients.
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, you're not filled up and your crap's going to start to like spill out. And all of a sudden, you're going to be projecting your stuff onto people.
Totally. Yeah. I love that. Just a general rule of thumb. Yeah. There's just so many different layers of nuance and things that I find to be interesting about it. Um, but being in this line of work gives us an opportunity to walk the walk. And there's no way to get around it because energy doesn't lie.
Well, you don't want to get around it. This is part of how you're able to do your work.
Yeah.
This is how you can hold the space for this like powerful community. And then I realized that I'm like looking at the clock and like, damn it. But that's actually a good segue. So, given this calling, this adventure, this journey that you've been on, that has opened up this amazing door that seems, you didn't say it literally, but it seems aligned. Can you give it a percentage at this point compared to the 20 and 60 you had before?
I'm
I
100.
would say it's greater than 90 from my perception.
I'm 100% in on it. I don't know if it'll always be 100%, but for today,
Okay, it's really a lot. Well, it's certainly you're glowing, and that carries you through the inevitable, valleys and hills that are part of living an actual open life, because it's not all rainbows and unicorns. So, as we kind of like wrap this up, what's to come? What do you want the world to know? And where should people look to find out more?
what's to come? What do I want people to know? Where should they find more? Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, what's to come continues to unfold in front of us.
Perfect.
But, where the path has like continued to point is supporting founders on their journeys. And because my own experience has been that being a founder has been one of the greatest initiations of my life. And it can be very lonely at times. And what I see is that, hear all the stats about like people going out on their own and quote unquote failing and I just think that the more we can give people who have a vision and a voice that they want to share with the world the best platform and shot at success, the better, the more likely we are to have a world where people have more access to more freedom. Because if they're working on things that make them feel aligned and fulfilled, and they're each contributing their unique medicine to the collective, that's how we change. We start to raise our consciousness as a collective.
Okay.
And I guess what do I want people to know is that same thing in different words, which is every single person on this planet has a unique soul medicine that is to add to the collective to make the world a better place. There is not one person who is exempt from that. And uncovering what that medicine may be the journey of a lifetime. But that is where, if we can each bring our gifts online, we will be a much more kind, loving, compassionate species. And the problems that we see on this planet will become problems of yesterday, not of tomorrow. That's why this work matters.
That's a really powerful why. I'm like, how do people find you,
Yeah.
Jack, building a bridge and this amazing community?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Chelsea Linge, Linge. You can find us on our website, which is becomingthebridge.co, not .com, .co. Those are the two places we are at now. And what we currently have coming up is we're welcoming new members into our online community every single day. It's for founders and dream builders, where we practice inner work and sharpen our skills around building our dreams and community. Next up, we are hosting our second in-person retreat in Sedona, December 5th through 8th. And that is going to be a 3-day event for conscious entrepreneurs, where we're going to get together and make some magic in person, and everything. You can find all that on our website as well.
And the space is limited, so people want to be a part of that. They would advise them to look into it soon.
Yeah, it's a small group for this one, which is exciting.
Well, and the first one just like rocked it. I don't know if any of us as participants or you all as facilitators could have anticipated
No.
how powerful that would be. Um, and amazingly, power without a lot of friction, at least from what I could perceive. It was amazingly self-healing.
Yeah.
A lot of really amazing people, and then part of what my experience is that the people within the group were as valuable, if not more so, as all of the amazing stuff that you all provided. And my God, the facility, holy crap. uh, it was and you're just like sprinkling the pictures out now, just like filtering them out as they show up. But yeah, I will say that I can definitely endorse enthusiastically the program, the community, and the retreat.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I love what you said about um, these aren't the exact words you used, but like the medicine being the other humans there.
Yeah.
And that is so. My husband has been joking for a while that when he thought having a wife would be like, she'd want clothes and things like that, and he has a wife that wants to pay money to go sit on meditation cushions with strangers. And I was like, yes, I do. And
There you go.
accurate. But it just, I think that those, and I don't even know if retreat is the best word we could use. They feel like little portals to new
Well,
timelines.
it's a transformational experience. It's a launching pad. I'm sure that we could have great fun coming up with ways to describe it. Describe the indescribable.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely a sacred space
Yeah.
and a sacred time. So I suppose sacred portal might be one way that I could describe it, if just to just mess with that for a couple of minutes there.
I
Um,
love
so
that.
yeah, 5 stars recommend. I think I've even written that like literally. Uh,
Thank you, Robert. And my own experience, I'll just like, of course, we came prepared and with a plan, of course, and had worked with our coach on, making sure that we were showing up, giving it the best shot at being magical.
and y'all did a great job.
And also, when y'all left, the first thing I did is I down on the couch and sobbed, just sobbed, because I could not believe that it had transpired in such a powerful way, and nothing that we could have written on our little programming,
No, you can't.
it was beyond the comprehension of my little pea brain, and it built continue to just like I'm in this season right now of trust beyond reason, and granted this is reason, but like it was just tangible. I guess what it comes down to me is it created faith, and more faith than I had.
Well, and that ties a lot of what we've been discussing together, which is kind of convenient. One is like that's an example of a miracle.
Yes.
That's an example of what can happen when you surrender and get out of the way and allow yourself to be the hollow bone through which spirit pours, because that's what happened. And hopefully some of that energy translates in this. Meanwhile, I would love to have more conversations with you in the future if you'd be up for it, because this is
Of
just,
course.
this fills me up to do this. And I'm so grateful for your time, your energy, your presence, and your loving kindness that just shows in everything that you do. And especially for this hour that we've spent chatting. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's been such a pleasure. Can't wait for the next one.